Good afternoon. It is 1 p.m. on Friday, the 7th of May 2021. My name is Arran Hunt. I'm a partner here at State Hammond and I head up the Migration Partners team. As always, this is not legal advice, it is just our commentary on immigration here in New Zealand. If you want legal advice, please contact us by email. The address is below in the description. This morning we finally got some more details on the upcoming work visa changes, so we're going to cover these in today's video. We know there's probably been a lot of coverage about this on the forums and online, so this is, I suppose, our take on it. Hopefully you get some benefit from this. There's still a lot of information that still has to come out. This is still very much a high-level view. One thing to note is definitely that we've been saying for a number of months that these visas have been delayed. A lot of commentary, people saying, yeah, they're coming in July. We've been saying, no, they're not coming in July, they're coming later in the year, and that has now been confirmed. Now, as I said, this is very high level, doesn't provide a lot of detail, and it doesn't provide much more than we already knew, but it does provide a few little bits of information which are very useful and allow you to sort of plan out your next work visa or your time here in New Zealand. We still have a lot more information to know over the coming months as to the definite process, but there is still a lot of information we have found out today. There is a web page that Immigration New Zealand have released today. We will link to it in the description below so you can see it yourself. And they are calling this the Accredited Employer Work Visa, the AEWV. Now we were saying EAWV, so it's close to what we were saying. So the AEWV is what we're now sort of referring this new visa, Accredited Employer Work Visa. We're going to start off with the overall process, which we already knew, but we have a little more information about it. It is a three-stage process. So first the employer gets the accreditation, that's called the employer check. Then the employer needs to show that the role meets the requirements, so that the wage is high enough, about the location, skill shortages. This is and also the employment agreement. We'll come to that later. This is called the job check. We then look at the finally the employee themselves comes in. The employer invites the employee, the applicant, to apply. And that's called the migrant worker check. So it's 3 checks in place there. So in the second stage, we expect the employer will be entering the details into the new Immigration New Zealand system, which is coming through, which starts rolling out in a few months. In that system, the employer will then send an invite, probably likely by entering the applicant's email address for the applicant to apply. So it is very much employer-led, as opposed to the current one, which was the employee who makes the application. The employer does most of the work here. So we'll go through the 3 steps now. So accreditation comes first. Now accreditation is simpler than the current accredited employer requirements, which are quite high, and the two are not linked. So if you're currently accredited now, your employer is currently accredited, there'll need to be a new application for the new accreditation, because you can't just get one automatically having the other. They are separate. Those who want to apply under the current scheme, so under the current accredited employer scheme, need to apply by the 30th of June this year, but we're not quite sure why you would at this late stage, because as we'll know in a second, this is all coming through at the end of the year and that scheme will be going away. So when the scheme comes into effect, any employer wanting to employ someone under an AEWV will need to be accredited, need to have this accreditation already in place before they do the application for that work visa. Employees should be able to start applying for accreditation in late September. So the employer wants to be accredited. The company that wants to bring to have employees under this scheme needs to apply for accreditation in late September is when it opens up. Now, we say should because so far we've seen a number of delays. This was all meant to be announced to us late last year and supposed to be coming into place about now. So it is running months overdue. So we say should, we'll wait until it actually comes into place before we definitely know it's going to be September. Now, the accreditation requires 3 things. It must be a genuinely operating business, so it means it has to be profitable, has to have a NZ business number, NZBN, a positive cash flow, be able to pay the employee, you'll be able to have the ability to pay for the person you're trying to employ, and a plan to continue operating. You can't sort of employ somebody for a business that you're planning on closing down. These are largely already the requirements that are already in place for the essential skills work visa requirements, so no big change there. There must not be a history for non-compliance. So this is again something that's standard currently for the Essential Skills Work Visa. You can be banned from employing staff permanently. There is a permanent ban, but that's generally if you are the highest of the high, you are exploiting workers. So that's going to be hopefully a very rare situation. You can also be suspended from being able to employ staff through this. We do know that there have been issues in the past about how Immigration New Zealand handles companies who have come off being suspended, punishing them for longer than the actual suspension. We've had to deal with that for a few of our clients, and we've helped them get past that issue. We expect that will continue to be an issue going forward. It's just the way that they are wording this. We think the wording will be very similar to the current suspension application sort of thing. So if that is an issue for you, please get in contact with us. We'll see if we can help you with it. It also can't be a Phoenix company. So there's they don't want to have employers, so the directors and the company owners who are bad employers and they go and start a new company or move somewhere else. You can be sort of banned as a person as well as being banned as a company. So if they see a company that's been started up and there's another company that was before it and basically the employer's just gone, I can't hire staff now, I'm going to start a new company, move it all across, that's called a Phoenix company. It's a simple explanation of it, but it's a Phoenix company. That won't be allowed to employ, to get accreditation. So they'll be looking out for actual specific people who are banned rather than just the companies themselves. They must take steps to minimise the risk of exploitation. This one we actually really like. It includes allowing migrant workers a chance to complete an online employment rights module, which is great as we see a number of clients coming to us and we're having to get them new work visas for new employers because their past employers have absolutely just ruined them, have treated them poorly and have not shown them given them the rights they actually have under employment laws in New Zealand. Employment laws in New Zealand are very employee centric, are very much about employees being treated well, and that's how they should be treated. And quite often they'll come to us and they have been through an experience which has just been horrid. And sadly, there's only a 3-month period that you can actually go to an employer and sort of raise an employment dispute. So quite often they've come to us and it may be a lot longer than that since they left that employment. And we're left in a situation trying to fix their immigration, but we see that they have been hurt by a really bad employer. So we do, at their allowance, we do notify Immigration New Zealand about the previous bad employers. So Immigration New Zealand do take notice of that. We help them go through it. So in this case here, it will a requirement that they allow migrant workers to do this online sort of test or quiz or something that sort of instructs them as to what they should be expecting as workers, which is fantastic, and I'm really happy to see that in there. It's going to make things a lot easier for migrants. So that's the 3 base requirements for accreditation. Now there is 2 levels of accreditation. There is standard for those employers looking to hire only up to 5 employees at a time under the AEWV scheme, and that only covers AEWV. So if you have employees who are on working holiday scheme or under a post-study open work visa, they don't count towards the 5. It's basically that you will allow to have 5 workers at any one point on an AEWV if you're under that standard accreditation. If you're looking for more than 5 people at a time, you're considered to be high volume accreditation. The one big difference here is that you need to be paying your employees at least 10% above the minimum wage. So you will be required to pay them the market rate, which could be a lot more than that. But if the market rate is that minimum wage, you have to be paying them 10% more than that. If you're not, the job check will be declined. The second stage will be declined. The only allowance there is that unless the job is covered by a collective agreement, such as arranged by a trade union that may have agreed to a lower rate. Otherwise, yeah, it must be that 10% above the minimum wage, which again is pretty good. Now, if you do have 5 employees under AEWV, you want to add a 6th one, you have to go then apply for this high volume accreditation. There is no sort of allowance just to add an extra 1 person. Basically, you have 5. Once you want to go more than 5, you've got to apply for that second level of accreditation. Now, accreditation itself lasts for 12 months the first time you get it, and then 24 months after that. However, there is an exception. If you are a franchisee, then it is limited to 12 months each time. So there is no 2-year period. It has to be a yearly application. You'll also need to be operating for at least 12 months and have a history of employing New Zealander workers. There needs to be more definition here around what a franchisee is. I've handled a lot of franchisee law. My first area of law actually was practicing in franchise law. I can't see how it's applicable to many franchisees. There are probably some that perhaps it could be applied to, but a lot of them, they are just a general business who happens to be running under a franchise system. So they're going to provide more details later in the year as to which industries this does cover. So it's not going to be all franchisees we expect. We imagine that it may go towards, well, maybe hospitality, maybe not, because there's definitely a big shortage in hospitality staff. But there will be probably some industries that is covered by. We'll have to wait and see later this year as to how they're going to do that. For labour hire providers, it will fall on the labour hire company to make sure that the employer who they give the labour to, or hire out the labour to, is compliant with all of the employment regulations. They must also have a history of contracting labour for the last 12 months, so you can't have a new labour hire company starting up who then wants to use staff through the AEWV. And they have to show that at least 15% of their workforce are New Zealanders in full-time employment. So they have to be citizens and residents in full-time employment for at least 15% of their workforce, just to stop, I suppose, labour hire companies from just churning through foreign staff. It makes sense at this point to cover time frame because before we move to the job check component. So INZ have said that the employers can start applying for the new accreditation in late September. So that's when you start applying for the new accreditation, with the old accreditation stopping end of 30 June. And the AEWV visas, or AEWVs, will start on 1 November 2021. So on 31st October 2021 will be the last day you can apply for that Essential Skills Work Visa. After that, it will be an AEWV. Need to have an easier way of saying that. So if your employer does not have the new accreditation that you're going to require come 1 November to apply for this job, then it's best to get the application underway before November under the Essential Skills Scheme. Still require the same requirements, the advertising if required, that sort of thing. So we'll be working with a lot of our clients in that situation. Come 1st November, if they aren't accredited, you can't apply for a visa for that job, just not allowed. Now, as accreditations only start in late September, there will be a lot of employers who are cramming in there trying to get that accreditation through in that. I think it's like a 1 month period. So late September, maybe if it's late, we'll say the last week of September, so a couple of days there, October, and then it starts. So you're looking at like 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks to get the accreditations done for a lot of employers, tens of thousands of companies. So it's going to be a big push to get that done. So they're going to be. So we don't have much detail as to how long the process is, how much detail is required to be provided. If it's going to be just filling out a form and then clicking a button and it goes through, then fine. We can't see that being the case. We think there's going to be a bit more involved than that. So we think there is going to be a backlog early on in this process. So we're going to be encouraging first our corporate clients to go and apply for this process at the end of September. We'll help them with that, and for their employees who are on a work visa that may be coming to an end around there or soon after there, then perhaps apply under Essential Skills Work Visa just to prevent there being a delay in the ability to apply. You don't want to have a situation where your clients, your employees' visa expires, say late November, early December, and you're waiting for accreditation to take place just so they can apply for a work visa. Better to get that out of the way with essential skills, get them secure for 3 years, but still get in there and definitely apply for that accreditation as soon as you can if you're looking at employing any migrants in the next year. We don't have details yet on how long the actual application process is going to take because, well, we won't know until it starts. We can sort of guess, but we don't really want to because there's a lot of changes going on here. We are going to move now to the second stage of the job check, and these will be a bit shorter than the first that we talked about. So the second stage is the job check. This confirms that the pay meets the market rate, that the employment agreement meets the employment laws and requirements, and that any labour market tests to show that there are no New Zealanders, residents and citizens for the role have been done. Now this takes place after the person has been found. So if you're an employer, you're going to find somebody, then you're going to apply for the job check. The reason being is you need to provide that employment agreement, you need to provide the market rate, you need to show that you've done the advertisement if there's nobody else available. So you do it before, after they've been found, but before, of course, they can apply for the visa. So it's going to create a further delay where currently you do the job search, you find them, you offer the employment, they apply at one stage there. Here you're going to be basically doing, you do the advertising, you find them, you offer them the job, you then do the job check. After that, they then apply for the visa. So it is going to add an extra stage in there and possibly a delay. How long a delay, we'll find out. As is required now, jobs below median wage must be referred to the Ministry of Social Development for a skills match report to show that there is nobody available on their books to do that job. As the labour market test, doing the advertising, jobs paying twice or more than median wage do not require a labour market test. So if it's going to be paying what's currently $106,000 a year, or $51 per hour, that's the current one. Median wage we'll talk about in a moment. Then if it's above double that amount, then there's no requirement to show there's no one available in New Zealand. The job is high enough to be considered that it's a rare enough situation. Jobs paying at but below that double the rate, but at or above median wage in places that aren't cities also do not require a labour market test. We'll come to the cities thing here in a sec. So if you're not in a city and the job is at or above median wage, don't require a labour market test, no need to advertise the role. Jobs paying at or above median wage in cities do need a labour market test, so you need to advertise the role unless they are on the skills shortage list and the requirements of that are met by the applicant, which is usually a qualification, work experience, that sort of thing. Cities mean Auckland, Hamilton, Wellington, Christchurch and Dunedin. Those 5 are cities. All the other ones are considered regions, so above the median wage, no requirement for labour market test. Median wage, important factor here. Now, there's something interesting that was mentioned during the session today. For months it's been known that the median wage will be going to $27 per hour from July. This is based on the figure from the June 2020 quarter provided by Stats New Zealand, and was meant to be put in place in January this year but was delayed because of COVID. Now, it was delayed until July 2021. Well, Immigration New Zealand stated in this thing this morning that they were still waiting for the Minister on what was happening with the median wage increase, so things may change. Now, at the moment, we are working with the assumption that the median wage will increase as it has been officially announced previously, but this did sort of make us pause and go, is there a change happening? We do know that the median wage was $27 in the June quarter last year, but it actually went down the following quarter due to the lockdown, the effects of lockdown and job losses. So that may be impacting this. That was one of the reasons why they did delay the median wage from coming in January through to July instead, but we'll have to wait to find out later. But right now I think we work on the assumption that it's going to go up. So if you are in that situation where you're not quite at that level yet, but you sort of, your visa's running out relatively soonish, then look at applying before July just as a precaution. That's one of your options. So visa lengths will be the same as now, 3 years for at or above median wage and 12 months for under median wage. And now once the job check is complete, the employer can invite the applicant to apply, so the employer initiates the application, and then the applicant is asked to sort of come into it. Applicants will need to show that they have skill and experience for the role, and health and criteria requirements remain the same. So you've got to have those same those same things done: police certificates, the health, the medical checks, the X-ray checks. This step is paid for. It says by the migrant or the employer. It doesn't actually say. It says that it's paid for by them both or by one of them. It's not quite clear as to whether they decided which way they're going to go, whether it's paid for by the employer or by the migrant. Be nice to see whether it goes one way or the other. It seems a bit clearer rather than an argument as to who's going to pay. I think it's simply just to go, okay, employer pays, or okay, migrant pays. As it's employer-led, perhaps the employer should be paying for it, but that's going to be an Immigration New Zealand choice. Okay, now moving to residents. Work to residents, as we said, the accreditation is going away, and that of course is often for work to residents, but all the work to residents categories are going away. New applications must be made before 31st of October. So if you've applied by then or you're already on the work to residence scheme, then it will continue as it currently does. For others who don't apply by 31st of October or don't fit into the work to residence, one of those schemes, one of those allowances, the accredited, the talent, that sort of thing, they are bringing in a new scheme which they hinted at a few months ago, and we mentioned in a couple of previous videos, but there's not much detail on it yet, but there is some more detail. We do have, before we knew that it was going to be based on being twice the median wage, we've now heard that is going through. It's going to be twice the median wage and require at least 2 years working in that role under an AEWV visa, or AEWV. It isn't clear as to how else it will work. That's all the details we have so far, but we would assume it's going to be similar to the current work to residence scheme, where you apply for residence at that 2-year point and then you sit in a queue for residence to be processed, because it's going to be a 3-year AEWV visa, and then of course 2 years in you can apply for this if you're at that threshold. So currently, of course, with the work to residence, you go into that queue, you apply for work to residence, and you go into that queue, which is a very, very long, sort of almost 2-year queue. However, currently, if you're above that income threshold, that twice median salary, you do jump the queue, high priority, get allocated very fast. In this case here, that's a requirement of the visa itself to have that high salary. So if they don't change how that works, then once you apply at that 2-year period under an AEWV, then you should go almost straight to be allocated to an officer to be looked at for residence. So it should be a very fast process if they don't change how that works. This is still several months away. They may change that. We'll have to wait and see. Now this has been agreed to by the government, this scheme around the twice median salary 2-year visa residence scheme. It's just about clarifying the details and the process, which they haven't come through with yet. Skilled migrant will still be around when it does restart, and will remain the primary way for most people to get residence in New Zealand from employment. And that covers actually what I want to cover in today's video. It's been 20 odd minutes of this video sort of covering what they've gone through today. There's still a lot of information to come through. Today very much was just a couple of more details, dates. There's still the actual process, the costs, still to come. The costs, they have said previously that in July they'll tell us the costs. That wasn't mentioned today, that was said back to us in March. They didn't say today as to what they're going to do cost-wise, when we're going to find out, but they're working on that currently. They did say that they were looking at how much it costs for them to process an application, and that's what the fees for an application always are based around, is covering Immigration New Zealand's costs. So that's what they'll be looking at, and at some point they're going to announce what those costs are going to be. There are 2 other things to quickly cover before this video finishes. Firstly is that the Minister has gained the extended power that we talked about in previous videos with Parliament, I think yesterday or today, extending that power into May 2023. Now these powers can only be used to benefit migrants. They can't be used in a detrimental way. They're only be used for good things rather than bad things. So they are beneficial. We just have a question as to whether they actually need to be in place until May 2023, and we question that actually in our submission to Parliament, to some select committee, about whether they need to have 2 years more of power. But the government has decided that they do need 2 more years of this power. Secondly is a reminder about the peaceful event happening in Parliament on Thursday the 13th of May at 12:30 p.m. I will be there and speaking. Happy to talk to you, any of you who are there. I'm presenting actually to a select committee at 11:15 on another matter in Parliament, and then I'll be outside again probably about hopefully midday. Hopefully the select committee doesn't run late. And then we should be back inside Parliament at 2 p.m. So I think a couple of hours there. I'll be outside at the peaceful event for about 2 hours. Please come say hello if you want to come say hello. Happy to meet as many of you as possible. Say hi, have a chat, see how things are going, and hopefully it's going to be a really good event. We're chatting to the organisers the last few nights, and hearing a lot of good things. A lot of MPs are coming, which is fantastic, from all parties, which is going to be great. And it should hopefully be a very harmonious event, a lot of good discussion, hopefully get some more movement on a number of these issues that we talk about all the time, and which we know that migrants are going through here in New Zealand. So I will leave a link to a Facebook event which to do with this event on the 13th. They'll be in the description below. And that is it. As always, please like this video. It really does help us with the YouTube algorithm to push this video out. And to subscribe, click the bell icon to be notified about future videos when they come out, usually sort of once a week or so. We are approaching 5,000 subscribers, which is just fantastic. I'm surprised and very happily surprised about that. But until next time, maybe even Thursday at the Beehive, kia kaha, and stay safe.